If you live in Lagos or any Yoruba land, you must have heard this phrase when someone is doing something incredibly stupid or short-sighted. They will say, "Ó ń ṣe bí dosunmu," meaning you are behaving like dosunmu. It's a powerful insult and it has its root in a single event that occurred over 160 years ago. It suggests that the person you are speaking to has signed away their future or made a terrible decision out of weakness or panic. But who exactly was this dosunmu, and why is his name synonymous with such a costly mistake? The answer lies in the dramatic and often brutal history of Lagos, a history that is still shaping your life and mind till today. The critical event happened in 1861 when Oba Dosunmu signed a single document that irrevocably changed the course of West Africa history. Yes, that document is signed is still affecting our economic, political, and cultural life today. But before we get to that fateful day, let's understand the man and the volatile kingdom he inherited. Dosunmu was the son of Oba Akintoye, who first ascended the throne of Lagos in 1841. Akintoye's reign was anything but peaceful. He was briefly deposed by his own ambitious nephew, Prince Kosoko, in 1845. Akintoye was only able to regain his throne in 1855 with the crucial and costly assistance of the British Empire. This involved a brutal naval bombardment of Lagos, an event known in history as Reduction of Lagos or Ogun Ahoyaya. When Oba Akintoye died 2 years later in 1853, his son Dosunmu, also known as dosunmu, was installed as the new Oba of Lagos. Again, with the overt backing and presence of the consul Benjamin Campbell. The British were not offering their support out of pure goodwill. Their primary motivation were economic and geopolitical. They were pushing hard to suppress the transatlantic slave trade and were simultaneously looking to secure a foothold for what they called legitimate trade, which primarily meant palm oil. The British saw Lagos with its strategic harbor and access to the interior market of the Yoruba hinterland as the perfect trading post. This meant Dosunmu was immediately under immense pressure. He was constantly struggling with the defiant and powerful Kosoko, who was often causing trouble and disrupting trade from his base in Ekpe. At the same time, Dosunmu had to contend with the ever-growing ambitions of the British consuls, who often intervened directly in the affair of the kingdom, treating the Oba less like a sovereign and more like a subordinate administrator. And the mounting pressures all came to a devastating end in August 1861. The British, represented by Commander Norman Bedingfield and Consul William Koski, convened a meeting with Oba Dosunmu. It wasn't a negotiation, it was an ultimatum. The meeting took place not in the Oba's palace but aboard the British warship HMS Prometheus, anchored right off the coast. They presented him with the Treaty of Cession. The terms were simple, stark, and non-negotiable. Dosunmu must cede Lagos Island to the British Crown, making it a permanent colony. He will retain his symbolic title of Oba, but with significant reduced power, a figurehead ruler, not a sovereign one. In exchange, he will receive a modest annual pension equivalent to roughly $100,000 in today's money. Dosunmu and his chief resisted the terms of the treaty for several days. They understood this meant surrendering the sovereignty and independence of the powerful kingdom built by their ancestors. This was not just about land, it was about the very future and the freedom of his people. But the British had a single compelling and ultimately terrifying argument: the threat of military bombardment and the utter destruction of Lagos. Oba Dosunmu had personally witnessed the devastating power of the British a decade earlier during the 1851 bombardment. Faced with the destruction of his city, his people, and the total loss of his throne without any guaranteed compensation, and still grappling with internal threats from Kosoko, Oba Dosunmu felt he had no other choice to save his city from annihilation. On August 6, 1861, under duress, he signed the document. This single action transformed Lagos from an independent Yoruba kingdom into the Lagos colony, the very first piece of what would eventually be stitched together to form a modern Nigeria. It was the start of former colonial rule and the ultimate decisive victory for the British in the region. So when someone call you dosunmu, it's a strict and pointed way of saying you have made a terrible, irreversible mistake. If you don't want to make a modern day dosunmu level mistake, please make sure you follow and subscribe right now. Thank you.